welcome back, listeners. We are, as always, excited to be back on the podcast. This is episode number 27 of Building with Breven. We are we're honored. We're almost at 30 episodes, and this one is another cool episode that we have for you guys. They're all cool. We're always excited about them, but this one is actually going to be what we're calling the hidden cost of custom home building, and what you need to budget for those unexpected costs that may come up throughout the build. Not may, most times they actually do. So anyways, stay tuned for this episode. There's a lot of cool stuff we're gonna be talking about. And Brian, how's everything been? It's been about a month. We need to
I feel like we say that too often. It's been a few weeks or it's been a month since we've recorded an episode. I won't even get into that. No excuses. As Steven said, we're happy to be back, and we really do enjoy putting these together. It's just function of time, like all the listeners. I know time is the most precious thing we have, right? So yeah, we've had some exciting times. So Steven, you want to talk about some of the highlights related to just our business and where we are over the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's been a busy month. I mean, like you said, it's a function of time, but I guess going back, beginning of October, actually, you and I, we did a relay for a half Ironman in Waco, Texas. That was awesome. So we were part of a relay team, and exciting event. And yeah, Brian crushed it on the bike. I did what I could in the swim, and then we had a cousin that did the run. So fun event there, and good opportunity to stay in shape. But that segued into some business goals that we've had ever since we started Breven Homes. And so we ran a home in the parade of homes this month as well. And it's been an incredible experience. Very, very honored to have that home in the parade. It's a 2-weekend event, and they do awards. And we were honored and very pleased to walk away with 5 awards in our first parade. So cool stuff there, and really a testament to the pride and just, the amount of effort that we've been putting into the business and into the homes that we build. So not to toot our own horn, but just filling everybody in on what we've been up to. And if you're in an area that has a parade of homes, definitely worth checking out. And also a good way to talk to builders and see some cool new design ideas.
Yeah, it was a really fun time. We went to the gala a few weeks ago, and to hear our name called 5 times is certainly something that I was not expecting. It was I was hoping to win an award, but to win 5 across one home, from best architectural design to Steven, I can't even rattle them all off, the different categories, but the primary bathroom, the kitchen. So got a lot of awards, more than I could have ever imagined. Extremely grateful for it, and certainly a testament to Steven's build quality. He built that house personally. So the other exciting news is that was a home that we built on speculative sale, and we got that under contract just recently as well. So good timing, and it happened just coincidentally right before the actual parade of homes. But it's been really fun over the last month, Steven, as you mentioned, doing some fun personal things like the Ironman relay, but also just seeing where the business is going, and the recognition that we've got from the local builders association.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just been more fun to get plugged in with the builders association in this aspect, and kind of see the inner workings of how they plan this event and all the crazy planning that goes into it. But yeah, a huge event. And like I mentioned, for listeners, check out your local home building association and their parade, because they're definitely something to see. Some really, really cool homes on the parade, and a lot of cool design ideas and just nice people. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode and what we're here to talk about, which is the hidden cost of custom home building. And there are absolutely hidden costs in pretty much every custom home, because like we've talked about in the past, it's a home that has never been built before if it's truly custom, and it has never definitely been built on your particular lot. So those 2 factors alone cause a lot of unknowns, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We've broken it down into the top 3 basically unknowns that we've seen when I say top, it's the most common, but also the most expensive, so that you guys as listeners can look out for these kind of things and try to mitigate it as much as possible with this knowledge. So, Brian, what's the first one that people need to be aware of for unexpected costs?
Yes, permits and utility fees. Steve and I use the term oftentimes pre-construction. This, of course, falls into towards the latter part of the pre-construction process, but permits and utility fees can vary widely. And when you're starting to think about building and looking at budgets and numbers, it's not. I wouldn't say that it's so much of a secret cost, but it can be hidden in that it's easy to overlook it when you're just looking at, well, what's it going to cost to build this house, and thinking, oh, to get my water meter, okay, that's can't be that much. You'd be surprised, right? So depending on, of course, where you're building, the municipality, the city, it can vary immensely. I mean, we're building some homes right now where permits and utility fees are over $20,000 just to get access to start building. So it's not a small amount. It can be, right? Again, depending on where you are, it can be. But I think, Stephen, every house that we have built thus far, there have been some exceptional costs. Maybe not to the tune of a total of $20,000, but to pick up a water meter from the city could be $4,000 or $5,000 as a water tap fee, part of the utility fees. But obviously, the water meter itself does not cost that much money. But it's paying the city for whatever other expenses they have baked into that. So, I think that it's easy to get the number by either working with your local reputable builder that you have partnered with, or by calling the municipalities, the cities, and saying, hey, what are those costs? Or maybe I say calling because sometimes the government websites are not the easiest to navigate.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned 20,000 on a build that we just started, and that's pennies for some of these listeners that are listening. I mean, they might have a well that they need to drill that would fall under utilities, or a septic system that's going to be $50,000 more than they expected, or electric that they're pulling from all the way down the block or whatever. And those costs are all part of this that we would consider permitting fees, and not those, but permitting fees are separate. But then utility fees, I mean, the utility fees can be drastically different depending on where you are, and one lot right next door to the other one could be significantly different. Like, I'll use an example. Our electric service company that we have out in the neighborhoods that we're building, they have to set transformers for the homes, and only a certain number of homes can be powered by one transformer. Once they hit the max number for that transformer, whoever the next house is on that block has to pay for a whole new, like an entire transformer just on that one house. So if you're the unlucky person that goes first, just because you're the only one that wants to build on that street at that time, you've got to pay for an entire transformer, which could be anywhere from $2,500 to $7,500, depending on the size and things like that. So I say that just as an example because you can see quickly how these costs start to add up. And then, like Brian mentioned, I mean, the city, they're going to bake in all their costs too. So like you mentioned, the water meter does not cost $5,000, $15,000, $20,000 itself, but it does cost the amount for the water meter, but also the crew and the machines and the equipment and all that other stuff to run the water line to your lot. So that's a city cost that they're baking into those utility fees. So a couple examples there, and yeah, definitely some unexpected costs. Now, the other thing too is you can call the city, and not to scare anybody, but you could call the city like we did 4 months ago when we were quoting out a project. They gave us the current pricing for that permit fee, and they gave us the utility cost at that time. When we finally got around to the permit and the plans were approved by the neighborhood, but then we were ready for city approvals, we take the plans in, and when it was time to pay the fees, they had all gone up. We hit it right before a cost increase, and somebody in the office just failed to mention that a month or two from then, prices were going to increase. So just like that, we were already, I think the price increase was pretty drastic too. It was about a 20% increase. So, I mean, right off the bat, we were already in the hole by a couple $1,000s. But like we've mentioned, we build with fixed price contract. So yeah, that's a cost that we didn't have to pass on to our clients. And, that's really where we look at ourselves and say, okay, this isn't something we could have prevented, but it's not fair to charge our clients either. So, um, anyways, yeah, once again, this is one of those unknowns in building, and you don't know what you're going to encounter when even the utility companies sometimes don't know how they're going to run their utilities to your lot.
Yep, absolutely. What's next?
Number two is going to be unexpected site work and land preparation costs. Now, this is a huge one. So, um, and maybe in order of magnitude, this might be the biggest one that could cause unknowns with most people. We have homes out in our area that are on hills, and so you sometimes want to cut into those hills or do site prep with clearing the trees and cutting the lot, as we call it, or a lot cut. And also going the other way, building up the lot if you're in a floodplain or things like that. So there can be significant costs associated with even a lot that you thought, oh man, this is a really cheap lot. This is a great price. Well, probably for a reason, right? People that are in the know how much it costs to prep that lot and get it ready for a home to sit on it properly and not be at risk of flood or a crazy high foundation or anything else. So there's a balance of the lot prep versus extreme foundation. At some point, there's a break even, but yeah, those are all things that a local reputable builder should be able to advise you on. That they've known those costs and they've seen them before, and they have the experience to help you through those.
Yeah, I think the the lot cut is so critical that you can still have the most experienced uh, uh, people out there doing the cut, but until you get in the middle of it and understand what rock you're cutting through, potentially 10, 20 feet under the ground, nobody could ever estimate that, could ever know that, uh, could ever even do that with sometimes there's soil samples that can be taken beforehand to try and get an idea, but those are taken in random spots across the lot, and that doesn't mean that the soil or the dirt or the compaction or the rock is consistent based off where you drilled versus what is to the left or right of it by, for example, 5, 10, 15, 20 feet. So we've experienced it. It's just part of the process, depending on many different variables, and something that you need to be aware of that may or may not impact you to just make sure your expectations are set properly on embarking on your custom home build.
That's a great point. I like that one. And that example too of the lot cut that shows just right there that yeah, when you think you're going through a lot cut and it's going smoothly, and then you go 5 feet over to finish the cut and it turns into granite or dolomite or some extremely hard rock that has to be hammered out if it even can be. And it takes days or weeks of hammering and chipping and trying to get that material out. um, yeah, that is a huge unknown that can significantly increase costs and is something like Brian mentioned that can never really even be determined until you get into the middle of it. So, good point there that, yeah, it's not something to be fearful of. It's just something to be aware of that it is a possibility, and you need to make sure that your budget can allow for some of these overages that we're discussing.
Yep.
All right. Number three.
And lastly, design changes and upgrades, change orders. I think we've said this before, but every single house we've ever built has encountered a change order. It is expected. It is, can I even say, Stephen, supposed to happen, right? It's a normal thing. You get in there and you go, this is the home that I have dreamed of. This is the home that I want. I've designed every last bit of it for the most part. And we missed this, or this is really important to me. And fortunately, in most cases, or hopefully you're at a good place throughout the build that it can be changed, number one. And number two, you're in a place where you can financially afford it, saying, hey, this is how much it's going to cost to make this change. Could be small, could be large. Obviously, it depends. And I think that as the change orders stack up, if you're one that says, hey, I had 5 or 10 change orders, that can add up to a large amount. Not because Steven and I and the other custom home builders are getting rich off of that, but to go back and oftentimes do work that has already been done in terms of preparation or quoting or uh, even procuring parts or materials, and then having to change it or cover it under warranty. I mean, there's a million different reasons why. Uh, there's a cost associated with that, right? So trust me, builders are not getting rich off of change orders, but it does create oftentimes redundant work.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's well said. And on that change order note, it's more than anything, it goes back to an expectations game and setting the proper expectations that when somebody goes into a build and they think this is my dream home, I've got it pinned down. I know what we want. This is it. And you see it only on 2D plans, and then you start seeing it come to life before your eyes and you're walking it and you're, oh, yeah, that's not what we thought on the plans, right? So it's that expectation that now you're a homeowner that wants something different, and you weren't planned or weren't expecting to have to pay more money to make these changes and add or change or do something different. But it, like you mentioned, it's very, very common and almost expected on every home, is that when these homeowners walk the home, there's going to be something that they want to change, or they didn't expect it to look that way, or they want it different, or whatever. And it all comes back to a cost. And so I want to mention too, this is kind of a funny little thing that I like to say to people, is that we can make your 1-story home a 2-story. Um, but it's it's just all about how much it's going to cost and how much time it's going to take, right? So I say that to make a point. If you come into the very beginning of the planning stages of saying, well, I want it to be a 2-story, right? It's all back to expectations. Okay, now your expectations are set that you're going to have a 2-story. If you go into it saying, I want a 1-story, and you're halfway through the build and you've already got the framing done and the roof on and everything, and then you say, oh, I really want a 2-story. Well, expectations are severely misguided on all aspects. And there you are. You're unexpected and more costs and disappointed that you've got to tear out half the house to go up with it. So that's a silly example probably, but hopefully it makes sense of, in extreme cases, we can do anything you want, but it all comes at a cost and a time.
Yep. These are the top three that we came up with. However, there's many more that we could talk about. The gist of it, or the takeaway, or the message that I would say to leave you with is, be prepared for unexpected costs, whether it's one of these three that we mentioned or others. And everybody has a budget, so just be ready to account for this, right? When you're looking at, hey, this is the maximum amount I am comfortable spending or I am willing to spend. Make sure that there's Stephen, sometimes we say a contingency of even 10 to 20%, just so that you don't have to stress throughout the entire build on, oh, hey, I'm at my max, I can't afford this. You don't want to have to go through that and bite off more than you can chew, if I can say it that way, right? It's you're in a place where you want to be able to build your custom home, and you're fortunate enough to be able to do so, but you also don't want to find yourself in, man, this is way more expensive than I thought it would be. It's goes back to what you and I constantly say, Stephen, about it's our job to manage your expectations as often as possible, as early as possible. So making sure that, hey, there's going to be unexpected costs. Don't go to your maximum limit just as early as possible, because, hey, I'm comfortable with this, and then there's overruns, and then you're disappointed. Then the expectations haven't been met. Whether that was the builder's fault or not, or whatever it may be, it's about your experience. And that's something that we're obsessed about. We take very personal, we take very serious when the homeowners that work with us, we want to make your experience as pleasant as possible, because there's way too many stories out there with unpleasant experiences of building homes, whether it's a home builder's fault or not. There's just horror story after horror story, and we do not want that to happen with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great summary. It's just making sure that these listeners are well informed and have that contingency planned for from the beginning. If you don't use all of it, excellent. Your expectations have been exceeded and you're feeling great. If you do have to use it, you already planned on it. You already had your expectations set there. and you're not severely disappointed, or even worse, coming at a place where you can't afford it. So, um, yeah, just things to be aware of. And 10-20% contingency fee, it all varies. It depends on the size of the home you're building, the lot, and the unexpecteds that could come with that. Um, and even how your builder guides you through the process. So I would say ask your builder, find a reputable builder, and ask them what their typical overages are on projects, and hopefully they have a reasonable number. Um, and then ask them what a reasonable amount of overage is that you should plan for. Now, this is not extra profit that if the builder doesn't use it, they're taking. This is just I'm gonna call it an emergency fund almost. If something unexpected happens, it's extra money that you have access to. The builder does not get it, right? So that's a note to make. And also, if the builder does have to tap into this contingency fee or contingency piggy bank, they need to be very clear on why they're doing that, right? Is it an unexpected with the lot cut and it took more days than expected? Is it utility fees increased? And ask for proof. Make sure that they're not just telling you, hey, we went $50,000 over on your foundation, pay me a check. Okay, why? Ask those questions and make sure that you're well informed and not going to be in for a world of hurt when you get to the end of the project and you're over 30-40%. Make sure you're keeping tabs of those and making notes of why things are going over. And hopefully they're all fair and well explained from your builder.
Yep. Well, very good.
Awesome. Well, cool. As always, thank you to our listeners, and thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you found value in it, we just ask that you'd follow along, follow our podcast, subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, and leave us a rating or a review. That definitely helps as well, and we love to hear your feedback, especially if it's 5 stars. So help us out and help us grow this podcast to get the good word out to more people. But thank you, as always, for supporting us and listening to what we have to say, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Appreciate it.